Welcome to the Business Information Buffet podcast, brought to you by the Minority Business Development Agency. Each week, we'll be featuring business owners and entrepreneurs that will provide their personal recipe for business, powerful conversations, and knowledge of the business world. We amplify the stories of various backgrounds, cultures, and expertise. Our self-identity is as diverse as our social community. We cultivate a community of like-minded individuals that share their different perspectives, broadening our worldview. Are you ready? This is the BIB Podcast, where everybody eats.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Business Information Buffet Podcast, also known as the BIB Podcast, where everybody eats. Here for another phenomenal episode. I am your host, Sean Torrey, with our DJ Icebreak.
Yeah.
What's up?
Y'all, it's your girl Maya, and you were tuned right now with your boy DJ Icebreak.
Sentimental flex. Go. How you feeling, Icebreak?
Good. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, good sir. So we have another special guest among us today. We're going to talk about, entrepreneurship, classes, programs. But the person that we have here in the room is someone that's primarily new, that we haven't had on the podcast before. So we have the director, the National Post-Secondary and Alumni Programs of NFTE, Mr. Kene Turner.
Yes, sir. What's up, y'all? It's so good to be here.
Man, it's so good to be here. How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I was feeling the pre-show. The tunes were rocking.
The tunes was rocking?
Yeah, man.
Got
Thank you guys, man. This has been an awesome start so far, so I appreciate being here with y'all.
Man, no, thank you for being here with us, man. And so for folks who don't know you, Kenny, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Kenny?
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks for having me. I'm actually new to the West Coast. I was born and raised in New York City, so lived there all my life, just about until 5 years ago. Okay. But I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens. So around I was inspired, to be honest, like all of the hip hop and clothing that came out of Queens and Brooklyn and New York City. It being, sport, the mecca for basketball too.
Basketball, yeah.
So when growing up, you kind of you gravitated to one of those things, right? Like you had to have your gear right. You had to you had to know who the hip hop artists were that were coming from the city. And honestly, it was fun, but it was also like subconsciously shaping us in terms of what entrepreneurship looked like, right? Like it was our way, out or in or up, or over. Not really realizing it until later when I processed it, like. Coming from the neighborhood where, LL Cool J and, Run DMC and all the icons of hip hop, right? Like Damon John, who's on Shark Tank right now. I came from that area, and it was just like everyone talked about like starting a fashion clothing company.
Right.
And so my first company was a fashion clothing company with one of my friends on the block,
That's crazy.
And it was a time where everybody, kind of hung out with everybody on the block or the next block. And, it was, and you dreamed, and you dreamed all the time. Right. And so we knew subconsciously, like the world wasn't going to hand us the opportunities. We had to go make those.
Go make them, yeah.
And so long story short, man, I mean, if I had to say who the core and the essence of Kenny was, those stories back on the block, back in Queens, New York. Learning the lessons that that I didn't learn from necessarily traditional ways. I learned from friends, from the street, from and lessons that shaped me today. So, but that's where my passion for entrepreneurship came from. Was those stories and hearing the stories of the people that I grew up around, and how allowing that to shape us to who we are today. And so in the middle of all that, I came across this opportunity to teach business and entrepreneurship at an after-school program. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think I could do that because it was kind of like one of those things, like I couldn't tell you what I was doing. I was just doing it out of like,
out of
innate,
love, right?
It was like innate, you just started like going, and we had no plan, and we just made clothes. We did fashion shows and stuff like that, but we didn't really have a plan. We didn't have structure. Right. We just went, mm-hmm. And so when someone pulled me over and said, hey, you mind working with young people to teach them what you're doing? I was like, nah, you don't want to learn from me. I'm the last guy that you want teaching entrepreneurship to anybody. And it was through that on-ramp that I realized that when I eventually said yes to it, it was through that on-ramp that I realized the power of transformation comes through that transfer of community and support and things like that. And so I wanted I didn't know NFTE at that time.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to be a part of something that would transfer that level of skill set, that context to the next generation. And so I became passionate about that. So NFTE soon became that tool. I can tell you how I came across that. But the essence of everything was, how do we transfer what we know to the next generation?
To the next generation, yeah.
You know, what the experiences that we had around what entrepreneurship business looked like in whatever form that we knew it, you know, what good can we transfer that to the next generation? And so NFTE became that tool of transfer, you know, for me.
See, that's, I mean, I think that's dope to hit, because like for cats like us, we're from the West Coast. We born and raised in Vegas.
Yeah.
Vegas is like, we have a brother-sister relationship to LA. So for us, I think I'll say for the DJ and I, right, we were born in 1990. So we were young when we saw Biggie and Pac, and we were the last generation to see Jordan. So we saw Jordan, then Kobe, then LeBron, and we're always the generation in the middle where we understood what it was, and where the West Coast and East Coast beef was really serious. Like we were not listening to Biggie. We gave Nas and Hov a pass, but we were not listening to Biggie and them like that until we got a little older. Because by that time we was like, all right, man, like that was our parents' deal. That nothing to do with us, right? So but we always had respect for New York, because New York was like the Mecca, and I still haven't been to New York. I want to go to New York one day. You got to come. I want to go to the boroughs. I want to go down to the Bronx and see where everything started. I definitely want to do all that. Like in the Wu-Tang, I know they over they're Stockton, Staten Island. Yeah. But I definitely it's just one of those things where to hear your transition, your identity from the New York to NFTE. Tell us a little bit more about NFTE, because when I was looking upon at the entrepreneurship and what you're going to be doing for Nevada Grow, I got excited. So for the people who don't know, what is NFTE? So
NFTE stands for the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, and it was started a little over 30 years ago by a gentleman named Steve Mariotti. And Steve had an epiphany. While long story short, he moved to New York City in the early to mid 80s and got robbed. And he got robbed by young people that, are from communities, that we're from, and so that was that while he could have been vindictive, it actually brought up a question for him. Like, why would they take the risk of robbing me? Like, I only have a few dollars in my pocket. And he realized that, there was a bigger story there that he hadn't paid attention to. And so he went to a therapist, and his therapist advised him, hey, why don't you go find out? Go find out what's going on in the neighborhoods. And so he went from, finance in the automobile industry and became a teacher. So he became a teacher in the Brooklyn and Bronx, roughest areas of those boroughs, mid 80s, you're fighting a crack, epidemic. So, and he discovered in the classroom while he was teaching math that the only thing that really stuck with those young people were, the conversations around how math was going to be relevant for you in the real world. And so his angle was entrepreneurship and business. And so he had a import shoe business that he did back then, and he used the learning lessons from that to teach them around entrepreneurship and math, and so his epiphany was, well, if we teach young people something that they can carry over into the real world, they're more likely to listen. And so he ran with that theory and started NFTE out of that context. Long story short, and so here we are, 30-something years later. With an organization that services still holds that mission of transformation, and in the communities that may not have those conversations naturally around the dinner table,
like that,
so we provide that vehicle or an opportunity to transfer that knowledge and strength to a variety of communities, specifically Black and brown communities that where our dollar doesn't always stay in our communities long.
It definitely don't. We're the number one consumers, right?
That's right.
Of the world.
Yeah. So an opportunity to work young and then work up to the that's amazing. I wish a lot of times when we present our program, and yes, we have all the tools you need to run a program in whether it's a middle school, high school, or college level, and even adult entrepreneurs as well. We cover the range.
Right.
The essence of our program, though, is like what happens after it, right? Like, so like what sticks, how we empower our participants to take the knowledge they've learned and actually go into something and take some action, whether that's starting a business or whether it's a career path where you think entrepreneurially. It's a variety of touch points that you can have once you interact with entrepreneurship. So it doesn't always have to be to start a business right now today.
So you can take your time. Essentially, you can take your time with it, right? So it's like it's one of those progressions.
Right.
It takes time.
Right.
Okay.
It works differently for everybody. So
Okay.
so we've our job is to present the information in a way that's understandable, because I think that was one of the hard things for me and for a lot of the communities that we work with. Like, I thought you had to have like a Harvard degree to go into business.
Right. No, real talk. Like, I thought the same. Like, I was like, well, okay. But then you see some of the people that we grew up to watch and love, and it's like, okay, they did it without even a GED.
Right.
And it's just about not the one part that a lot of people we watched at that time is they were like, oh man, I did this on my own. But it's like, well, you had a whole crew. Like, you had a whole crew that had, it's like what, that six separation.
Right.
I forgot what it's called. 6 person separation, whatever. I forgot.
6 degrees of separation.
Yes, that's right. 6 degrees separation, and then you got with the right people. And then this group of people helped elevate you, and we don't talk about that.
Right, and if that's a term. I think that a term that fits that is called community economics.
Economics, yes.
Right, like where it's the community that comes together to bring economic stability. Like me and you learning from a textbook in front of a computer alone really won't bring the transformation in our communities economically that we want to see. That the power of entrepreneurship is in the unity, not in the isolation. And so while we learn certain things in isolation, eventually it's the community economics that really bring, especially the communities that we're working with and we want to serve, right? Those are the communities that they really need us to come together. And so how do we put our resources together? How do we build these businesses together? Not always compete, but create together. So those are the things that, to your point, man, I think, sharing that knowledge and having a space to do it. And I think that's the power of Nifty, right? Like we do provide the information, but the space for the community to come together, for people to meet each other that normally would never get a chance to meet each other, et cetera. That's really where the essence of that power of, human capital comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, then can you explain, well, as we're getting to know Nifty, what is the relationship going forward with Nevada Grow? What are you guys going to be doing for Nevada Grow?
Oh man, we're excited, man. I mean, first step, right? Like, so we have this online platform that the entrepreneurs that will be attached to the program, they'll be able to get this online program where they can go and, again, go back to basics, but also develop and advance on some topics. But there'll be some additional resources just for them. Okay. Inside of that. So, which is really cool. So, and so it's a place that they can go back. They can commune with the other entrepreneurs that are in there as well.
I like that.
And just continuously learn, locally what's available to them and build a network, right? And so even though the information is online for us in this context, we didn't want to eliminate the opportunity for the community coming together, right? And so it'll be self-paced, so you can go at your own pace.
Gotcha.
And I think Nevada Grow and CSN are going to launch it in August to get access to it, and then everyone who's on it, there's a capability on the platform to communicate. So hopefully we can take advantage of that and just start some great relationships among the people that are be on it, and filter some relationships that way too.
Give this man a round of applause. All the opportunities you bring into the community. That's that little bit of sauce. That's that magic in a recipe right there, ladies and gentlemen. Which actually this leads into the first segment of our show. You ready for it? So yes, sir?
Ready. All
right. So this right here is recipe versus the outcome. That's not magic, good sir. So this segment we discussed the journey and how you planned how the business became about, right? But we already did that a little bit and what challenges that the business faced. But there's something that I want to ask you first in this segment, good sir. Can you think of a time that you planned something and it didn't go through accordingly? How did you make it work?
Wow. Personally or through the business or through
you can say both. You can say both.
Man, there's so many. So something I didn't plan and how did I get around that?
Yeah, how'd you make it? How'd you make it work?
Like the unexpected, right?
Yeah, like the unexpected. Like, oh man, it all worked out somehow, but it all organically came together. How did it go? How did it work?
You know what? I think the story I've been telling recently is I think this goes back to like what makes entrepreneurship, some of the skill sets needed for entrepreneurship you can use in life too, right? Like. But one of the things was, I took a leap of faith coming to the West Coast.
You sure did.
I was born and raised East Coast, and I was coming out here doing for several years doing some training on entrepreneurship for NFTE. And my wife and I, we loved it. We just loved coming out West Coast, and we were like, we started to dream. I have 3 kids, 2 daughters who are in college now, and
salute to you on that.
Yes, sir.
Salute to the kids.
And my son, who's in high school. At the time, they weren't though,
right.
And so we left without a full plan. And
I got you.
And so there's moments in our lives where, like, you move. You don't move unless you have that plan, right? Then there's moments where we're challenged, where you take that leap. You may not have the plan fully vetted out, right? And so it pulls a whole different skill set of making it. So I would say that was, even though we didn't know what the next what the 10 steps were ahead,
right.
We knew what the next one was. And so I want to say, like, that also holds people back from starting a business, like, because they don't know, like what the next 10 steps are. They don't do the next one. And I would say, hey, take the next step. And that'll help you in your business venture and getting going in some form or fashion. So sometimes you don't need to know the whole story to take the next step.
Thank you for that, because I think what a lot of people, they see the overnight success and they think of instant gratification for certain people, or it happened. It is sometimes it's circumstance, right place, right time. It just God worked it out for them,
right?
Or whoever they may believe,
right?
And some things it takes a little longer. Like it didn't take Jeff Bezos 5 years to make Amazon. Like it took him a long time for Amazon to get to where it is. Even Netflix started when I was like 10, right around the time before that, like 98. So it started around those time, and it got to where it is now. So I think people have to hear about the longevity and like just take those steps, because we don't know everything right off the bat.
Right.
We don't.
There you go.
So next question for you. What are some things you've experienced that could have worked out in theory, but did not go that way in practice?
Yeah. I would say my first business, right? The clothing business. So I was dreaming, and we actually modeled ourselves a lot after Damon John. He had his clothing company, Fubu. Because we were from the same area. Right. And so we invested so much money and time and, et cetera, trying to make it work. It didn't work. Yeah. And, but it didn't work the way we thought it would. Yeah. But it propelled us, my partner now, he worked a long time with Viacom and Nickelodeon, and, now works with LL Cool J in his Rock the Bells organization. Right. And I'm doing what I'm doing. And, but that inspiration to go into those pathways, we can both say like it was sparked from that interest of attempting something that, even though it didn't work out, we learned so many lessons along the way that we carried over. Right. So so even if it doesn't always work out the way you want it or expect it, and you may even say, man, I wasted money. You invested. You invested, yeah. And you invested in yourself. And even though it didn't pan out the way you thought about it on paper, you can still learn a lot from those lessons that even when it doesn't work out. And sometimes you learn more, right? And so being a dad of kids with in athletics, you learn more from the losses sometimes.
Real talk. I say that all the time. Especially, I got 2 daughters too, and I got a brand. I got my own brand too. So trust me, I understand. It's a challenge, bro. And then trying to elevate that to more than just a brand, that's something that people sometimes don't understand. It's like, oh, it's cliches, trying to flash a brand, but sometimes you may be able to take it to the next level. Exactly. So it's sometimes if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean something else isn't coming. Right. And I think that's something that people have to get their mind around. It's an investment, not a waste.
There you go.
So thank you for going through recipe, good sir. And we're actually going to get ready to go to our next segment. We're going to put you in the hot seat, good sir.
Let's do it.
That hot seat. There we go. Yes, sir. So right now we're going to ask you in-depth questions, rapid questions. Okay. We go quick. So we can see what you're going to do, good sir. All right. Who did you look up to growing up?
Growing up, my mother.
Moms.
100%.
Dope. Salute to moms. What's one habit you do daily?
Writing almost daily.
Writing?
Yeah.
Poetry or just regular?
I do a little poetry for myself. I don't know if it'll ever be published. but writing, because everything is, on the computer so much.
Yeah.
I just need that paper pen.
I got you.
It's really important for me.
So then, all right, what favorite tool to use that helps you run your business?
I got a couple, but Evernote is one.
Okay.
Yeah, helps you stay organized. OneNote is another one. I use both. And I use a task tool called Todoist.
Got you.
So Todoist has been a saving grace for me with all the moving parts that I have going on.
So best part about your work ethic?
Best part is it's authentic.
It's authentic.
Yeah.
Got you. You were gonna say?
I was gonna say what's driving me to work is not the moving up the ladder or trying to get attention. It's the cause. So,
I like that.
Yeah. So it's pushing me to work harder. And that's probably the only thing that would probably push me to do the work that I do is to stay focused on the cause.
All right. What's the worst part of your work ethic?
Worst part, man, I don't know. Sometimes I guess I'm really into sports.
Oh, me too, dog. I understand. Football, basketball.
I'm sorry.
Well, you basketball. You basketball mainly.
Basketball, football. I mean, I'm watching Olympic stuff. I just like I'll squeeze in a little sports. My bad. CEO is JD LaRock. So this might be news for him. But once in a while, you're on Zoom all day.
Yeah,
I might take 5 minutes to look at a couple things.
Man, listen, I don't blame you because I'm tired of looking at this screen. I need to look at a bigger screen and just relax.
Yes, sir.
So I got you. You made it through the hot seat, good sir. Good job, sir. So this next segment here, we getting you ready for the sauce.
You ain't got no sauce, then
you ain't gonna lost.
You're lost.
You're lost in the sauce.
You also get lost in the sauce.
So this segment gives us more insight on our guests, where we ask, "What's your special ingredient for your business?" and where you tell us why nobody can replicate what you do. So tell us what makes us. Nifty. What makes Nifty a business nobody can duplicate?
Yeah, well, when we get asked this question all the time, but I would say one of our unique, value propositions is, like I said, we have an amazing curriculum. I'm biased, so I think it's awesome. Yes, we have tools to help you get started on your own. I think the secret sauce for us is that ability to bring the community together. I think that aspect of what Nifty does over and over again just outweighs, anything we put on paper, anything we put electronically.
Right.
Bringing executives with young, or just these entrepreneurs on the ground.
Right.
That, from our young people to our young adults, bringing that story together for folks that they never would have connected.
Gotcha.
And over again, we hear how powerful that was for people, that when the class is over, when the course is over, that's what remains, those relationships. So I think I just love seeing that, just bringing people together that normally would never have that touch point.
See?
Yeah.
He's with it. He know what he talking about. So what's your secret ingredient for what you do, like how you teach and how you approach this game? What's your secret ingredient?
I mentioned that, a lot of times with business, and people have told me this too, they thought that they had, they didn't understand it.
Right.
It was kind of confusing, especially when you talk about numbers and financial projections and things like that. And so it's always been my goal to make something so challenging and difficult at times to understand and put it in layman's terms, for the average person to understand. And so if you're talking truth and it's amazing, but nobody understands you, then you ain't saying, you might as well not be saying much. But if you speak truth, but make it where people can chew it and understand it, now they can go take action.
Gotcha.
Now they feel motivated, right? And so, so we have to remember the diverse learners across the board, the way some people learn visually, some people learn by audio, et cetera, and finding ways to accommodate, for every learner who wants to learn entrepreneurship and business, for whatever reason you may use it for. You may go into the world of work and be a much more efficient worker because you think entrepreneurially.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our message, around that is, if you start a business, we want to be here to support you in that business. We want to promote it. We want to give you the ins and outs of what you need to get started. If you feel like you want to stay in your career pathway,
right,
but you still need to learn what entrepreneurial mindset, you need to have in order to adapt to that work environment.
Gotcha.
Right. So all those things come into play, and hopefully we position ourselves to make that happen for people.
Man, I hear the passion in you, good sir. Thank you for that, because you gave us that. You gave us that sauce, and then you gave us a little bit of that magic. So we deeply appreciate you, good sir, and thank you for being with us today. But before you go,
yes, sir,
we got to go into the last segment, good sir. The happy hour, y'all, ladies and gentlemen. So if you can go ahead and pass those glasses right there. So in this segment is where we host, between the host and the guest, and we toast to success, good sir. And so we asking what's going on great, big or small. So could you tell us, good sir, what is something that's going great with your business right now, or just with NFTE, or with you personally, that you can share with the people?
Well, one is Nevada Grow, College of Southern Nevada. We here.
That's what I'm talking about. He got the collaboration. That last one, good bro, because I'm gonna check your toast today.
Yes, sir.
Man,
we in the house now. I guess we in the building.
We're in the building, and hopefully it's for a long time. And so we're grateful to be in the building with y'all. So that's what's going on great right now. We have an expansion across the board right now, and so we're excited about that. And we want that to transfer into impact. So. So we're constantly, we need partners that hold us to that, tell us how this is impacting, your participants, and how we can improve impact along the way. Right. And so, but that's what's going on great right now. We're here with you guys, and you guys might be the first relationship in Nevada or the Vegas area for us. So I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Good, sir. Yeah. So you know what, Kenny, thank you so much, man. And I'm looking forward to this partnership. I'm looking forward to learn from you and to grow from here.
Absolutely.
Because I'm also an entrepreneur. I got my own businesses, and I'm someone who's trying to just grow and help other youth. That's what I do. My thing is mentorship.
That's awesome.
So I thank you for being here, and toast to success.
Yes, sir.
And to this new relationship.
Yes, thank you.
Ice break. Tap the table.
There it is.
There it is, good sir. So before we go, can you go ahead and plug us your last, where we can find you, emails, all that stuff. Tell them where the website is. Plug them.
All right, let's do it. So NFTE is NFTE.com. You can find a lot of good information on there. We're also on all the social media platforms as well: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. So we're there as well. You can get updates along the way for both what we do nationally and internationally. We have a global presence as well. We work in different countries. So you can learn more about what's going on those platforms. So my email address is KENE
yes, sir.
T at NFTE.com. So Kene T at NFTE.com.
And I will say, ladies and gentlemen, he is responsive. Don't you? You hate those people when you get them emails and they do not respond. This man responds, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. So Kenny, thank you, man. Appreciate you, man.
So dope, man. Thank you, man.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Business Information Buffet Podcast, also known as the BIB Podcast, with your host Sean Torrey, with our DJ Ice Break. And we are out, ladies and gentlemen. See y'all next time.
See ya.